Imagine sitting in a room surrounded by people listening as your name is erased from the very life you built together. That's exactly what happened to me in a moment that shattered everything I thought I knew. It's funny how life can change in the blink of an eye, how everything you thought you knew can shatter when you least expect it. One moment, you're sitting in a room full of people, hearing the final words of a life shared with someone you love deeply. The next moment, you're left standing there invisible, erased. That's exactly what happened to me. As the lawyer read through Richard's will, everything seemed so ordinary at first. I sat there clutching the edges of my chair, trying to hold on to some semblance of calm. Richard, my husband of over 40 years, had always been a steady presence in my life. Even as his health declined, I was there for him, nursing him, supporting him, making sure he was comfortable when he couldn't even walk without assistance. I thought I was his rock, just as he had always been mine. But as the lawyer's voice echoed in the room, my heart sank. Clara, my daughter-in-law, stood up and with chilling precision declared that I, Emily, was being completely cut out of the will. Just like that, gone. All of those years, the nights spent at Richard's side, the sacrifices I made, the love we had erased in a single cold sentence. I felt the room spin. My mind raced. Was I hearing this right? Surely there had been a mistake. But no. The lawyer's eyes shifted towards me with an unreadable expression, and Clara's face remained unflinching. She was getting everything: the house, the estate, the legacy Richard and I had built together. I was left with nothing but a quiet, hollow feeling, as if I no longer existed in the story of our life. My name had been crossed out, erased without a second thought. A sense of betrayal washed over me, and I was overwhelmed by disbelief and shock. How could this be happening? In that moment, something inside me shifted. The woman who had stood silently by her husband's side for all those years, quiet, supportive, devoted, began to wake up. A quiet fire started to burn inside me, one that whispered, "This isn't the end. You will reclaim what's yours." The day of Richard's funeral arrived with all the expected formalities, neatly pressed suits, black dresses, and the quiet murmur of voices that never quite reached the warmth I had known for so long. But the atmosphere felt wrong, cold, calculated, sterile. Clara had arranged everything down to the finest detail. There was no room for anything unexpected, no room for spontaneity. It was as though she had planned every moment, as if it were a performance, and we were simply the audience. The church was stunning, of course. It always was. The pews lined in perfect rows, the polished wood gleaming under the soft lights. The floral arrangements, white lilies, roses, and ivy, were immaculately placed, each petal in perfect harmony with the next. The room looked like something out of a high-end catalog, but not 1 ounce of soul or warmth found its way into it. The flowers, so beautifully arranged, were like the final touch on a performance that had already begun before we even arrived. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was a show, a carefully orchestrated scene that had been rehearsed until every detail was flawless. Clara stood at the front, leading the ceremony with the kind of precision I had come to expect from her. She was composed, almost regal in her grief, her eyes never betraying any hint of the turmoil or emotion that I expected from a moment like this. She gave the eulogy, her voice steady and unwavering, as she spoke of Richard, as if she were reading off a script, beautifully written, but empty of any real feeling. There was no mention of the late-night conversations Richard and I shared, the way he'd hold my hand in the quiet moments, the shared laughter over small jokes only the two of us understood. None of that made it into her words. Richard had always hated the perfection of formal events like this. He would always laugh and say funerals should be messy. He used to say people should cry loud, tell bad jokes, forget their umbrellas. He wanted the world to see how deeply we lived, how vibrant life could be, even when it ended. He wanted his funeral to be real, raw, messy, full of emotion. But this was something different. This was a performance, a perfectly timed event where no one stepped out of line. As the ceremony ended and the last guests filed out of the church, the coldness stayed with me. No one lingered. No one turned to ask if I needed a ride home, not even Clara, who had orchestrated every minute of the day. It was as if the world had suddenly forgotten that Richard and I had shared a life, one that had been filled with love, warmth, and connection. Now it felt as though everything I had built with him was slipping away, erased with the same precision Clara had used to arrange the funeral. The drive back to the house was silent. The car felt empty without Richard's presence, without his steady hand on the armrest, his soft chuckle when he'd make a joke about the weather or the world. When we arrived, I stepped out of the car and into the house that once held so much life. But now the house felt empty. The air in it was thick, almost suffocating. The familiar scent of Richard's cologne, the one I had grown used to over the years, seemed to mock me now. It hung in the air like a ghost of the man I had loved, a reminder of what once was and what was now gone. It felt out of place, a cruel reminder of the life that had been stripped away. As I stood in the hallway, the silence was deafening. The house, once a home filled with laughter and warmth, now felt like a shell. I walked through the rooms, my fingers brushing the furniture as if I could somehow make it feel like home again. The living room, where we had spent so many quiet evenings together, was now just an empty space. The kitchen, once filled with the smell of Richard's favorite meals, was silent. Even the bookshelves filled with his favorite novels felt like they were staring back at me, their spines so familiar, yet so distant. I reached for the coat that hung by the door, his coat. It was still there, just as it had always been. I could almost feel his presence as I ran my hand over the fabric, remembering the warmth of his hugs, the way he would pull me close on cold evenings. But now in the quiet of the house, that warmth seemed impossible to find. There was nothing left to hold on to, nothing but the hollow feeling that consumed me. The walls felt like they were closing in, pressing in on me with each breath I took. I had spent so many years caring for Richard, loving him through every moment of sickness and health, and now I felt like an intruder in my own life. The love we had shared, the life we had built, felt like it had been swept away in an instant. I stood there alone in that house, and for the first time I realized something. It wasn't just Richard that was gone. I had been erased, too. The life we had created together, the memories we had made, they were all being rewritten by Clara. It was like I had never existed at all. And in that moment, a new feeling stirred inside me. Something quiet yet powerful began to awaken. This wasn't the end. Not for me. I wouldn't let it be. The love and the life Richard and I had built deserved more than to be erased by one woman's calculated decisions. I would find a way to reclaim what was rightfully mine. And it would start right here in this house that once felt like home, but now felt like a battlefield. The quiet, controlled perfection of Clara's funeral had set the stage for something else. It had set the stage for me to take back control. The story was far from over. It was just beginning. The days after the funeral blurred into one another. I had hoped for a moment, just a brief respite, where I could sit down with Clara and discuss Richard's estate share, the decisions, the memories, the love we had both shared with him. But that hope quickly faded into disappointment. Clara made it clear in her cold and efficient way that there would be no discussion. She was in charge now. She had taken over every detail, every decision, without asking me a single question, without even offering the courtesy of a conversation. I had always known Clara to be a woman of action, someone who thrived on control. But this felt different. It was like she was erasing me from everything, as though the life Richard and I had built together meant nothing. She didn't need to ask for my opinion. There was no place for me in these decisions anymore. The phone calls, the meetings with the lawyers, the discussions about the estate, they all happened without me. Clara handled it all. She made it clear that everything would be taken care of in her way with no room for anyone else. I was left to stand on the sidelines of my own life, powerless, invisible. And every time I tried to speak up, I felt like I was being brushed aside, my voice, drowned out by the authority Clara had so easily taken. It was as though Richard and I had never existed in this home, in this life we had created. Then one day Clara handed me a small box. I stared at it for a moment before taking it from her. The box was too neat, too perfect, just like everything she did. She didn't say a word when she handed it to me, her eyes as cold as ever. I opened the box slowly, unsure of what I would find inside. It was a cufflink, a single cufflink that belonged to Richard. There was no note, no explanation, just a small piece of metal that once had meaning, that once had been part of the man I loved. I held it in my hand for a long time, staring at the intricate details, the way the light caught on it. But it felt heavy in my palm, like it carried the weight of my exclusion. This was it. This was the only thing Clara had given me, no explanation, no sentiment, just a cufflink. A cruel reminder that I was no longer part of this life. I was no longer the woman who had stood beside Richard through every high and low. I was just nothing. The cufflink was a symbol of that, a reminder that Clara had now taken my place. I couldn't understand how it had come to this. It was as though I had been erased, replaced by someone else. The house that had once been filled with laughter, with shared memories, with love, now felt cold. Every room I walked into seemed to stare back at me like a stranger's house, a place where I no longer belonged. The familiar scents, the sounds that had once been so comforting now felt like ghosts. Richard's book still sat on the shelves, his favorite chair still rested in the living room, but it was as if I were a ghost haunting a place that no longer welcomed me. I tried to remind myself that this wasn't real, that it was just a phase, that things would settle down. But the reality was too harsh, too unforgiving. I could feel it in every conversation, in every look I received from Clara. She had taken over. She had erased me. I had been Richard's wife for decades. I had been the one who held him when he couldn't sleep, the one who wiped his brow when he was sick, the one who built this life with him. But now, in this house that we had built together, it felt like I was an outsider. It wasn't just Clara's control that was suffocating. It was the sense that slowly but surely my name, my role, my place in this life had been wiped away, replaced by Clara's cold authority. I could no longer stand by and watch as everything I had known, everything I had loved, was erased. I had to do something. This wasn't just about an estate. It wasn't just about money or property. It was about my dignity, my identity, and my place in the world Richard and I had created together. It was time for me to take control, to stand up for myself, and to reclaim what was rightfully mine. I wasn't just going to fade into the background, not when so much of my life had been spent building this legacy. I would make sure that Richard's memory, our story, wasn't rewritten by someone who didn't care. Clara may have taken control of the house, but I was going to take back the truth, and I was going to make sure that my place in Richard's life and in his legacy was never erased again. A few days after Clara's cold gesture with the cufflink, the weight of it all started to sink in. I had been hoping naively, perhaps, that this was just a rough patch. But with every passing day, Clara's control over everything grew more suffocating. It wasn't long before I received an email, one that sealed the reality of what I had been avoiding. It was from Clara's assistant, completely devoid of any sympathy or consideration. The subject line read simply, "Estate Administration Meeting Scheduled." I stared at the screen, my fingers trembling slightly as I clicked open the email. The message itself was stark, formal, and impersonal. There was no warmth, no acknowledgement of my loss, just the cold clinical details of the meeting date, time, location. No hope you're doing okay or if you need anything. Just a time and place. As if I were nothing more than a name on a list. As if the love Richard and I shared could be reduced to a simple transaction. The date was set for the following week. The words on the screen seemed to blur in front of me as I read them over and over, unable to accept the gravity of what was happening. There was no we anymore, no partnership, no shared space in this new world Clara was creating. I felt invisible. I was nothing but an observer, a passive figure in my own life. The day of the meeting arrived, and I walked into the cold, polished conference room with my heart pounding in my chest. I tried to steady myself, but as I entered the room, I immediately felt the coldness of it all. The fluorescent lights overhead cast everything in harsh, clinical light. The long table was pristine, each chair in perfect alignment. There was no comfort, no warmth. The room smelled of paper and air conditioning, sterile and lifeless. I felt as though I was stepping into a courtroom, not a place where a life was being honored. Clara was already seated at the head of the table, her back straight, her expression one of businesslike efficiency. She didn't look up as I walked in, didn't acknowledge my presence. She didn't need to. She had already taken control, and I was just an outsider now, a shadow of what once was. As I took my seat at the far end of the table, I tried to breathe deeply, but it felt like the air was too thin. The other lawyers' associates and accountants were there, their faces unreadable, their attention fixed on Clara as she began speaking. Her voice was calm, precise, like she had done this 1,000 times before. She started going through the estate distribution, her fingers moving over the documents with practiced ease. I followed along my mind, trying to process the words, but my heart was racing. When Clara's hand turned the page, I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. There it was, my name missing. Not a mention, not a line, not even a footnote. It was as if I had never existed in Richard's life. The shock of it hit me like a cold wave, and for a moment I could barely breathe. I scanned the documents in front of me, desperate for some sign that this was all a mistake, but there was nothing. Clara's name was everywhere, every line, every decision. She was the one receiving everything, Richard's assets, his investments, his trust. And me, I was nowhere. I had been erased. I tried to hold it together to stay composed, but my hands were shaking. The cold, sterile legal process continued around me, with Clara speaking in a detached manner about stocks, property, and assets, as though she were discussing inventory, not the life Richard and I had built together. The words felt hollow. There was no emotion in her voice, no recognition of the decades we had spent together, nothing that reflected the love we shared. It was just business, and I was no longer part of it. It became painfully clear in that moment that Clara had systematically pushed me out. My rightful share, my place in Richard's legacy, was ignored, discarded as if it had no value. I wasn't just excluded from the will, I had been erased from the entire narrative of Richard's life, and it felt like I was being suffocated by the weight of that erasure. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and demand to be seen, to be heard. But instead, I sat in silence, my throat tight with the words I couldn't speak. Clara's cold control of everything felt suffocating. I had spent years caring for Richard, loving him through the ups and downs of life, and now, in this cold, heartless room, it felt as if I had never mattered at all. When the meeting finally ended, Clara packed up the papers without a single glance in my direction. I could feel the weight of my own insignificance in that moment. I was nothing more than an afterthought, a ghost who had been discarded. I walked out of the room with my head held high, but inside I was crumbling. I had been left behind, my identity reduced to a mere footnote in the life I had once shared with Richard. But deep inside, something was awakening, something stronger than the shock and hurt. It was a quiet fire, a determination to reclaim what had been stolen from me. The feeling of being erased from my own life was unbearable, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let Clara rewrite my story. This was far from over. It was just the beginning. The weight of the estate meeting pressed down on me long after I left the sterile conference room. Clara's cold efficiency, the way she had effortlessly erased me from Richard's life, those moments replayed in my mind over and over. But amidst the swirling confusion and hurt, a single question began to form. What had Richard truly wanted? Was this really his decision? Or had Clara manipulated everything, taking advantage of his fragile state to secure her own future? While erasing mine, I couldn't let it go. I couldn't sit by and allow Clara to rewrite everything Richard and I had built together, not without finding the truth. I needed answers, and they weren't going to come from her. So I turned to the one place I knew still held the remnants of his presence, Richard's personal papers. The study, once our shared space for quiet evenings and meaningful conversations, now felt like a foreign land. It was filled with Richard's books, his notes, the scattered remnants of a life we had shared. The leather-bound journals that once held our dreams together were now just objects void of the warmth they once carried. The air was thick with the weight of unanswered questions, and I felt as though the walls themselves were closing in on me. I started sifting through the drawers, each one filled with pieces of Richard's life. Tax documents, receipts, old letters, mundane items to anyone else, but to me they were fragments of a life that was now slipping through my fingers. I paused as my hand brushed against an envelope tucked deep in the back of the desk drawer. It wasn't labeled, just plain white with a faint crease in the corner. My heart skipped a beat. Richard had been meticulous about his papers, and nothing ever went unlabeled. Inside the envelope, I found 3 sheets of paper. The top one was handwritten, Richard's familiar scrawl filling the page. I held my breath as I began to read. Clara wants me to update the will. She says it needs to reflect the current holdings. I asked her why now, and she said it's for clarity. I'm not sure about this. She's being careful, too careful. She's drawing up papers on my behalf without telling Marietta. I haven't signed anything yet. I haven't told her. I know she'd ask the questions I'm afraid of. My fingers trembled as I reread the note. Richard had doubted Clara. He had known something wasn't right, but had kept it to himself, maybe out of love, maybe out of fear. But this note, was proof that he had questioned her intentions long before the will reading. The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt a sickening mix of grief and betrayal rise in my chest. Had Clara been plotting all along, using Richard's declining health as a cover for her plans? My mind raced trying to make sense of it all. The second sheet was a photocopy of the most recent will that Clara had presented during the meeting. The document, though signed, was clearly not the one Richard and I had discussed. I could see the changes immediately. The parts where Richard had written his wishes for me, his notes about the family trust, our shared assets, everything that we had built together were crossed out, altered, rewritten. There were new sections that I didn't recognize, sections that seemed to favor Clara in ways that didn't make sense. And then I saw the note in the margin of the will that read, "Discuss with Clara." I felt the room spin. Clara had crossed out what Richard had wanted and rewritten it. This wasn't just a simple update to the will. This was an entirely new document, one that erased me from the narrative of his life. I couldn't breathe. The grief that had already taken root in my chest now threatened to overwhelm me. Richard had trusted me. We had shared everything. And now I realized with a heavy heart he had known something was wrong all along but hadn't told me. Perhaps he was trying to protect me, or maybe he simply didn't know how to confront the truth himself. But this wasn't the end. I couldn't let Clara do this. I couldn't let her take everything from me, our home, our memories, Richard's legacy. This was bigger than just money. This was about honor. It was about respect. It was about standing up for the life Richard and I had created together, a life that Clara had no right to rewrite. I tucked the papers back into the envelope, my hands steady, despite the storm brewing inside me. I had no more illusions. Clara had orchestrated everything using Richard's vulnerability to her advantage. She had planned it all from the start. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. I knew I had to confront this head on. I couldn't keep hiding behind my grief, my confusion. I had to take action. I had to fight for the truth, and I had to fight for Richard's legacy. With every step I took toward uncovering the truth, I felt more certain. This wasn't just a mistake or a clerical error. This was deliberate. Clara had manipulated the entire situation, and I was going to make sure the world knew the truth before it was too late. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The days following my discovery of Richard's handwritten notes felt like a blur, each one carrying the weight of the truth I was slowly uncovering. I knew I couldn't do this alone, not anymore. The anger and confusion were too overwhelming. I needed someone who knew the ins and outs of the law, someone who could help me navigate the maze of deceit Clara had so carefully constructed. So I reached out to David. He had been the family lawyer for years, someone Richard and I trusted completely. David was always calm under pressure, a steady presence in our lives when things were uncertain. I hadn't spoken to him in a while, but I knew he would understand what I was facing. I could no longer sit idle. I had to act. David agreed to meet me the next day, and I could feel the weight of the situation sink deeper as I prepared the documents. I had found the note Richard had written, the altered will, everything. As I handed them over to him, I couldn't help but feel a wave of dread. Would the truth be as clear to him as it was to me? Or was this just the beginning of a deeper, darker discovery? David carefully examined the papers, his face growing more serious with every page he turned. "This is unsettling," he said, quietly, looking up at me with a furrowed brow. "The changes Clara made to Richard's will are far more than simple updates. These are deliberate manipulations. And I'm afraid it doesn't stop here." I felt my stomach drop as the reality of what David was saying hit me. Clara hadn't just altered the will in an attempt to remove me from Richard's life. She had orchestrated an entire scheme to seize control over everything he owned, everything we had built together. The family trust, the assets Richard and I had worked so hard to accumulate, Clara had already taken control of it all, even before Richard's death. The documents we were looking at weren't just altered, they were falsified. David leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "This is bigger than I thought," he muttered to himself before turning back to me. "It looks like Clara began making these changes months ago, maybe even earlier. The transfers of assets, of control over the trust, everything points to her having a plan in place long before Richard passed. This wasn't something that happened overnight. I could feel the blood drain from my face. This wasn't just a woman trying to secure her future. This was premeditated theft. Clara had used Richard's illness, his vulnerability, to her advantage. While I had been by his side caring for him and trying to preserve our life together, Clara had been behind the scenes quietly manipulating everything." David sifted through the papers, his voice growing more urgent. "These signatures, they're not right. Some of them are forged, Emily. And these aren't just simple mistakes or oversights. Someone deliberately went in and altered these documents. There are also discrepancies in the dates and notations, things that don't add up. It's clear now Clara knew exactly what she was doing. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. The betrayal was overwhelming. How could she take advantage of Richard's trust like that? She had been so polite, so seemingly respectful of me all these years. But beneath the surface, she had been plotting slowly and methodically, taking everything from me, from us. But as the anger swirled inside me, something else emerged: strength, a quiet, fierce determination. I wasn't going to let this happen. I wasn't going to stand by and watch Clara steal everything Richard and I had worked for. I had loved him with everything I had, and now it was time to fight for what was rightfully mine. David continued to go over the documents, pulling out inconsistencies and red flags. It felt like the pieces of a puzzle were falling into place, and with each discovery, my resolve grew stronger. The evidence was clear. Now Clara had manipulated the entire process. She had used Richard's declining health as a smokescreen for her own schemes, and I had been too blind to see it. "This is a serious matter, Emily," David said, his voice steady but laced with concern. "We need to gather more evidence, witness testimonies, proof of fraudulent signatures, and we'll need to challenge these documents in court. But I can't promise this will be easy. Clara will fight back. She's already taken control, and now she'll do everything she can to cover her tracks." I nodded, the weight of it all sinking in. I wasn't prepared for this battle, but I had no choice. I couldn't let Clara get away with what she had done. The fight for Richard's legacy, for the life we had built, was mine to win or lose. With David's help, I began gathering everything I could: emails, documents, and even a few witnesses who had been around Richard in his final months. The deeper we dug, the clearer it became. Clara had been playing the long game, and I had been her unwitting pawn. But I wouldn't stay silent any longer. This was my fight now, and I would do whatever it took to bring the truth to light. The sense of betrayal was still there, sharp and painful, but there was something else now, too, a fire burning within me. Clara had thought she could erase me, erase my place in Richard's life. But she was wrong. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I wasn't going to let her take everything from me. I was going to take back what was mine, and I was going to do it with the truth on my side. The more I learned, the deeper the web of lies Clara had spun seemed to go. David and Lydia had become my anchor in this battle, their expertise guiding me through the tangled mess Clara had carefully constructed. David Ever, the steady presence, had already begun requesting the necessary documents, the signed will, and any additional records that might shed light on Clara's actions. But it wasn't just the legal documents that I needed answers from, it was the truth behind those documents that haunted me. As we dug deeper into Richard's estate records, Lydia's sharp eyes began to uncover glaring inconsistencies. It started with the signatures. There were multiple versions of Richard's will and trust, each one with a slightly different signature. Some of them appeared to be rushed or altered. Others didn't even match Richard's usual style. It was clear that something wasn't right. The document I had seen in the meeting wasn't the one Richard had originally signed, but a version that had been manipulated, and I began to realize that Clara had been orchestrating this entire process behind closed doors. Lydia, who had worked on numerous probate cases, looked over the documents with intense focus, marking down the discrepancies. "Look here," she said, pointing to the will that Clara had presented at the meeting. "This signature doesn't match Richard's known signatures, and there are no dates on these documents. It's clear she's been handling these matters without following the usual legal protocols." David added, "Clara didn't just make changes to the estate, she bypassed every normal procedure. We should have had formal meetings, proper witnesses, and certified copies of everything. But Clara, it seems, has been handling this on her own without any oversight." I was floored. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Clara hadn't just altered a few papers. She had systematically taken control of everything Richard's entire legacy without any legal validity. She had bypassed the process, handled everything in secrecy, and manipulated the system to suit her own needs. She had known what she was doing. She knew Richard was vulnerable, and she had used his illness as a cover to steal everything from him. From me. The weight of it all began to settle in my chest. It felt like the ground beneath me was slipping away. How could I have been so blind? All those months spent at Richard's side caring for him, thinking that I was protecting him, that I was doing the right thing, while Clara was quietly rewriting our future. I couldn't let this stand. Not after everything. Not after the years I had spent caring for him, when no one else could, when no one else would. Clara had no right to this. She had no right to tear apart the life Richard and I had shared. But as devastated as I was, I knew this wasn't the time for despair. I couldn't let myself falter. I had to be strong, not just for me, but for Richard, for everything he had wanted to protect, for everything we had built together. "We need to get more evidence," Lydia said, breaking my spiraling thoughts. "There are more records to request, more people to interview, but the trail is getting clearer. We need to keep moving quickly before Clara has a chance to cover her tracks further." I nodded, a rush of determination flooding through me. The legal fight was far from over. I had to keep pushing. I couldn't afford to stop, not when Clara's manipulations were so carefully hidden behind layers of deceit. David's steady voice broke in, reminding me of the bigger picture. "We'll need to go to court, Emily. But we have the evidence now. We have the proof of fraud and manipulation. Clara can't get away with this." I clutched the documents tighter, the weight of them both heavy and empowering. This wasn't just about legalities anymore. It was about doing right by Richard. It was about making sure his final wishes weren't twisted to serve Clara's cold ambitions. The next few weeks were filled with phone calls, meetings, and a rush of paperwork. Each new piece of evidence we uncovered added to the case, revealing the full extent of Clara's schemes. We uncovered more fraudulent signatures, more discrepancies, and more secretive dealings that Clara had kept hidden under the surface. Every new discovery made my heart ache with the realization that I had been blind to her true intentions. But with each revelation, my resolve hardened. Clara had underestimated me. She had thought I would disappear, that I would quietly fade away and let her take everything. But I wasn't going to back down. Not now. Not after everything I had done for Richard. I couldn't let Clara erase me, erase us without a fight. The truth was on my side, and I would make sure it saw the light of day. The longer I fought, the more I realized this wasn't just about the money. This was about justice, about honoring Richard's legacy and ensuring that Clara's greed didn't rewrite our history. The legal process would take time, and I knew there would be obstacles, but I was prepared now. I wasn't afraid, and I wasn't alone. With David and Lydia by my side, I knew we had a chance. We would expose Clara's deceit, and we would make sure that Richard's wishes were honored. This fight wasn't just mine, it was Richard's fight too, and I would see it through to the end, no matter what it took. The days were growing longer, the weight of the investigation heavier on my shoulders. Every day I pushed through the mountain of legal papers, the never-ending trail of documents and inconsistencies. It was exhausting, and sometimes I felt as if the truth was slipping further away with every turn. But I couldn't stop. I wouldn't stop. Richard's legacy, my place in it, depended on me finding the truth, and I was so close. David and Lydia were relentless, digging deeper into every part of the estate. They scrutinized every document, every email, and every shred of evidence. But there was something that kept nagging at me. Clara had been so meticulous in her efforts to control everything. But what if there was someone who had seen something? What if someone had witnessed Clara's manipulation in real time? It was then that I remembered Olivia. She had been a former assistant at the law firm where Clara had worked before the estate battle began. Olivia had been quiet and diligent, but I always remembered how she seemed a little uneasy around Clara. There was a certain tension in the air whenever Olivia and Clara were in the same room. I had always written it off as nothing more than office dynamics, but now in light of everything that had happened, I wondered if Olivia knew more than she had let on. I didn't waste any time. I reached out to Olivia asking if she would meet with me. She hesitated at first, unsure if she wanted to get involved in what was clearly a messy, dangerous situation. But after a few more calls, she finally agreed to meet. When she arrived, I could see the uncertainty in her eyes, but there was something else too, something that looked like regret. Maybe deep down she knew what Clara had done was wrong, and maybe she just needed the push to speak up. We sat in a quiet cafe, the hum of conversations around us barely noticeable. I laid out the documents we had found, the fraudulent signatures, the altered will, the patterns of manipulation. Olivia listened carefully, her face unreadable, but her eyes flickered with recognition. When I mentioned Clara's involvement in pushing papers and altering the estate, her hand gripped the table. "Clara, she was always in control," Olivia said, her voice low. But there was one thing that I couldn't ignore. There was a moment just before Richard passed when Clara asked me to witness a document. It was strange. Richard wasn't there. She said he had signed it already, but I could tell something was off. She asked me to sign as a witness, but I didn't even see him do it. I leaned in, every muscle in my body tensing. "You witnessed a signature, but Richard wasn't there." Olivia nodded slowly, as though remembering the moment still caused her discomfort. "Yes." It was late in the evening, and Clara was very insistent. She told me it was just a formality, but something in her eyes, it didn't sit right with me. She was too eager, too quick to get it done. I should have questioned it then, but I didn't. I just signed. My heart raced. This was it. This was the moment that changed everything. The key witness. Olivia had seen it. She had witnessed Clara's deception firsthand. The moment when Clara had pushed her to sign a document that had been altered in secret, with no sign of Richard's presence. It wasn't just an oversight, it was an intentional act. Clara had orchestrated this whole thing, and Olivia was the missing link, the final piece I needed to prove her manipulation. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me. This was the breakthrough I had been waiting for. I had the proof. Olivia's testimony, her acknowledgement of what she had witnessed, could destroy Clara's entire case. This wasn't just about the altered will anymore. This was about the lengths Clara had gone to in order to manipulate Richard's final wishes and to take everything from me. I sat back, taking in the enormity of what Olivia had just revealed. She was scared, I could tell, but she was also resolute. She knew what had happened, and she wasn't going to let Clara get away with it. "I want to help," she said, her voice firmer now. "I can't let her get away with what she did to you, to Richard." I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. "Thank you, Olivia. You don't know what this means." For the first time in weeks, I felt a surge of hope. It wasn't just about winning the legal battle anymore. It was about truth. Clara's lies, her manipulation, had been uncovered. And now I had the evidence to confront her, to take back what was rightfully mine. We spent the rest of the afternoon going over the details, preparing for what would come next. Olivia agreed to give a formal statement, one that would serve as crucial evidence in the case. As we walked out of the cafe, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The truth was finally within reach. It wasn't just about fighting for an estate. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity, and my place in Richard's legacy. Clara had tried to erase me, to rewrite the narrative of our lives, but she had underestimated me. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The battle wasn't over, but now for the first time I felt like I was in control. The final showdown was coming, and I was ready. The days following Olivia's revelation were a whirlwind of activity. David and Lydia worked tirelessly preparing the case for court. With Olivia's testimony now added to the evidence we had collected, it felt like the truth was finally on our side. Clara's carefully constructed web of lies, her manipulation of Richard's estate, was about to unravel, and I could feel the tension building with every passing day. I remember sitting in the conference room watching as Lydia and David laid out our strategy. The evidence was overwhelming: fraudulent signatures, altered documents, and Clara's manipulation of Richard's declining health. The legal team was confident, but I knew the road ahead would be anything but easy. Clara was a woman of power and influence, and I had no doubt she would fight tooth and nail to protect what she had taken. But this time I wasn't going to back down. I couldn't. As the court date approached, Clara's response became clear. The lawyer she hired began bombarding us with letters, all of them filled with threats and accusations. She tried to paint me as a bitter, grieving widow, unable to accept Richard's decision. It was as if she thought the world would believe her version of the story, the version where I was the villain, where I had no right to fight for what was mine. The truth, as it always does, was much messier than Clara wanted to admit. Her attacks were personal, designed to weaken me. "She's just angry," her lawyer wrote. "She's seeking revenge for her loss." The words stung, but I refused to let them control me. I had spent too many years in the shadows, too many years quietly supporting Richard and building our life together. Now it was my time to step into the light and defend the legacy that was rightfully mine. At first, I felt a knot of anger rise within me as I read through the letters. But then something changed. The anger shifted to determination. Clara could throw as many accusations as she wanted, but they wouldn't stop me. I had the truth on my side, and the truth wasn't something anyone could manipulate or erase. When the court date finally arrived, I walked into the courtroom with my head held high. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for Richard's memory, for the life we had built together. The room felt imposing, the air heavy with tension. But as I looked across the table at Clara, sitting confidently with her lawyer, I felt a quiet resolve settle in my chest. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. And I was ready to stand up for what was right. Clara's lawyer wasted no time. He started with a barrage of accusations, painting me as an emotional wreck, someone who was letting grief cloud her judgment. He tried to discredit me, tried to reduce my fight to petty jealousy over money. He even went so far as to imply that I had no right to challenge the will, as if Clara had somehow earned her place as the rightful heir. I stayed calm. I didn't let his words rattle me. I had prepared for this moment. I knew the truth, and I wasn't afraid to speak it. When my turn came, I stood tall. I could feel the eyes of the court on me, but it didn't matter. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I spoke about the years I had spent with Richard, the way we had built a life together, the promises he had made to me. I spoke about how Clara had manipulated him, how she had used his vulnerability to take everything from us. And when I presented the evidence, Olivia's testimony, the forged signatures, the altered documents, there was no denying it. Clara's world was crumbling piece by piece. Clara's face tightened with each new revelation. She tried to maintain her composure, but I could see the cracks starting to show. Her confident facade was slipping, and it was clear that the weight of her lies was beginning to take its toll. As the legal proceedings escalated, I realized something profound. Clara could try to discredit me. She could try to paint me as the villain, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid of her threats, her accusations, or her attempts to manipulate the truth. I had spent far too long being silenced, and now I was reclaiming my voice. I was going to make sure that Richard's legacy was protected no matter the cost. The battle in the courtroom was fierce, and I knew it wasn't over yet. But I was ready. I was ready to protect Richard's name, to protect the life we had shared, and to make sure that Clara's deceitful reign came to an end. This wasn't just about winning a case. It was about ensuring that the truth would come to light and that my rightful place in Richard's legacy would never be erased again. As I left the courtroom that day, I felt a sense of quiet strength. The fight was far from over, but I knew that no matter what happened next, I had already won. Because the truth was on my side, and no one, especially not Clara, could take that away from me. The weeks that followed were filled with long days in court, the clattering of legal papers, and hours spent with David and Lydia, strategizing our next steps. Each day felt like an eternity, the pressure mounting as we dug deeper into Clara's manipulations and lies. But as the evidence piled up, it became increasingly clear that Clara was losing control. The weight of her deceit was catching up with her, and no amount of denial could cover the truth any longer. Then one afternoon, I received a call from David. His voice was calm, but there was a note of finality to it that made my heart skip. Clara's withdrawing from her position, he said simply. It's over. I sat there, the phone pressed to my ear, my mind struggling to process what he was saying. After all the battles, the accusations, the threats Clara was stepping down, it was almost too surreal to believe. But as I hung up and took a deep breath, I realized the magnitude of what had just happened. Clara had been forced to relinquish control. She was no longer the executor of Richard's estate, no longer the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. The victory wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. There were no press releases, no public displays of triumph. But it was powerful in its quiet way. The weight that had been hanging over me for so long had finally been lifted. The house that had once felt like a prison, the life that had been so easily rewritten now, had a chance to breathe again. It was mine once more. I could feel the relief wash over me in waves, but it was subtle, a quiet satisfaction. This wasn't just about winning a legal battle. It was about something much deeper. I had fought for Richard's legacy, for our life together, and for the right to stand in the place that had always been mine. I had reclaimed my dignity, and I had ensured that Richard's final wishes would be honored, not manipulated for someone else's gain. The news of Clara's withdrawal didn't come with fanfare. There were no cheers, no celebrations. Instead, it was like the final page of a long, painful chapter had turned. Clara had lost her grip on the estate, but she wasn't the only one who had lost something. Richard had been taken from me, and now, in a small but significant way, I had taken back what was rightfully ours. It wasn't just the estate I had won back, it was my sense of peace, my place in Richard's memory, and my right to live without fear of being erased. Clara's quiet withdrawal marked the end of the manipulation, the end of the control she had tried to exert over every piece of our lives. It wasn't revenge, it was justice. I thought back to the quiet mornings Richard and I had spent in the kitchen, the late-night talks in front of the fire, the simple moments that had made up our life together. All of that had been threatened, stolen by someone who didn't care about the love we shared, only about what she could gain. But now, in this quiet moment, I knew I had done the right thing. Richard's legacy would survive. It was more than just money or property. It was about honoring the life we had built, the trust we had shared, and the love that had been at the heart of it all. I didn't need a grand victory. I didn't need anyone else to recognize the struggle I had been through. What mattered was that I had fought for the truth, and in doing so, I had found my place again. A place where I was no longer an outsider in my own story. As I walked through the house, the rooms no longer felt suffocating. I didn't feel like a ghost, like someone who had been erased. I was finally home again, not just in the physical space, but in the life that Richard and I had created. The love we had was intact. It was ours to keep, and no one, certainly not Clara, could take that from me. I stood in the living room, looking at the space where Richard and I had spent so many years together. It was still the same, but it was different now. It was mine. It was ours. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. The victory was quiet, but it was complete. And as I stood there, I knew it wasn't the end. It was a new beginning, a new chapter one where I would continue to protect Richard's memory, to honor the life we had shared, and to ensure that our story, our love, would never be erased again. The weight of the legal battles had finally lifted, but I knew the real work was just beginning. Clara's withdrawal was a victory, but it was only the first step. The battle for Richard's legacy had never been about the estate. It had always been about reclaiming what was rightfully mine, the life we had built together, the family we had created, and the love that had defined us. And I wasn't about to let Clara's manipulations erase all of that. I spent the next few weeks quietly reflecting on everything I had gone through. The long nights spent alone, the constant feeling of being invisible in my own life, had all come to a head. But as I stood in the middle of our home, the home Richard and I had filled with memories, I realized that the most important thing I could do now was preserve what we had. I wasn't going to let Clara's cold control rewrite our story. The first step was simple. I began to go through Richard's things. Slowly at first, I picked up his favorite books, his journals, the old photographs scattered around the house. I could still hear his voice in my mind as I flipped through the pages of his notebooks, reading the words he had written. These weren't just documents, they were pieces of our history, our story. I wanted to keep it all. Every photograph, every letter, every memento. These were the true markers of our life together, the moments that mattered. Richard had always been meticulous about our shared legacy. He had often spoken of our future, of how we'd leave behind something more than just wealth, something that told the story of who we were, of our love, our struggles, and the life we had built together. Clara had tried to erase that legacy, but I refused to let her. These memories were mine to hold on to, mine to protect. I started putting together a collection of the most important pieces of our life, things I knew I could pass down to future generations. I gathered the photos of family vacations, the ones where Richard and I had laughed so hard, our sides ached, the times we had danced together in the kitchen to our favorite songs. I carefully placed them in albums, each one a chapter of our story. Each album was a testament to the life we had shared, and each photo reminded me of what mattered most. There was one photo in particular that stood out, a picture of Richard and me standing hand in hand at a charity event we had organized years ago. It had been one of the proudest moments of our lives. The smile on his face, the pride in his eyes, those moments were what I had worked for. Those were the memories that would never fade, no matter how hard Clara tried to rewrite our story. But preserving the past was only part of it. I had to reclaim my identity, too. For so long, I had lived in the shadow of Clara's control, her quiet manipulations. I had let her dictate the narrative of our lives, and in doing so I had lost sight of who I was. But now I knew better. I knew that I had to step into the light and take my place, not just as Richard's widow, but as a woman who had loved and fought for everything we had built. The more I worked to preserve our legacy, the more I began to feel a sense of peace return to me. It wasn't the kind of peace that came from winning a battle in court or reclaiming financial assets. It was a deeper peace, the kind that came from knowing that I had fought for the truth, that I had stood up for the love I shared with Richard, and that no one, especially not Clara, could take that away from me. For the first time since Richard's passing, I began to feel at home in my own life again. The house once filled with the ghost of Clara's cold influence now felt like a place of warmth and belonging once more. The rooms which had once seemed too silent now carried the echoes of laughter of memories that no one could erase. The weight of Clara's actions had been heavy, but it had only made me stronger. I no longer felt like an outsider in my own life. I had reclaimed my place in our story, and no one could change that. As I looked around, I realized that Richard was still here in the house, in the memories and the love we had shared. No matter what Clara did, she couldn't take that away. She couldn't erase our love, our history, or the truth of who we were. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a quiet sense of closure. Richard's legacy was safe. My identity was safe, and that was all that mattered. I didn't need to shout or demand attention. The life Richard and I had built together was proof enough of the love, the commitment, and the bond we had shared. No one, especially Clara, could ever take that away. I had fought for it, and I had won. For the first time since Richard's passing, I felt at peace. I knew that no matter what happened next, I had protected his legacy, my legacy, and the truth that had always been ours. It wasn't about money or property. It was about honoring the life we had shared, the love that had always been at the heart of everything we did. As I sat in our living room, surrounded by the photographs and memories of our life together, I realized something else. I had always been home. Not because of the house, but because of the love that had filled it, and that no matter what Clara did, would never be erased. The days that followed Clara's withdrawal were quieter, almost surreal. The chaos that had once surrounded me, the constant legal battles, the emotional turmoil of fighting for what was mine, had all faded into the background. Now in the stillness, there was only one thing left to do: to live. Live with the clarity I had fought so hard to regain. Live with the peace that had eluded me for so long. I didn't need the estate to validate my life with Richard. I didn't need Clara's approval, her manipulation, or her cold authority to define who I was. The truth had been revealed, and I had reclaimed my rightful place in Richard's legacy. I wasn't a victim anymore. I wasn't someone who had been sidelined and erased. I was Emily, Richard's wife, the woman who had loved him fiercely, who had fought for our shared story, and who had protected the life we built together. And that was more than enough. One afternoon, as I was going through some of the documents Richard had kept, I received an unexpected visitor. It was Thomas, an old friend of Richard's from his work in the nonprofit sector. He had been part of the foundation we had helped build together, and although we hadn't spoken in a while, we had always shared a deep respect for each other. He was a quiet man, steady and kind, with a wisdom that always seemed to cut through the noise of everyday life. "Emily," he said, his voice soft but strong, as he sat down across from me, "I just wanted to say how proud I am of you, not just for what you've been through, but for how you've handled it. Richard would have been proud. You've stood your ground, and you've made sure his legacy stays intact." His words hit me harder than I expected. A wave of emotion rose in my chest, and I blinked back tears. Thomas had always been able to see the deeper truth in things, and what he was saying was more than just a compliment. It was a reminder that the work Richard and I had done, the foundation we had built together, was far more important than any legal battle or financial gain. The estate, the property, the legal proceedings, they were all just pieces of paper. What mattered most was the life we had lived, the love we had shared, and the impact we had made in the world together. That was the legacy I had been fighting for, and that was what I had protected. Not just for me, but for Richard. And now that it was safe, I could let go of the need to keep fighting. I could finally honor Richard's memory in the way he would have wanted by living, by moving forward, and by continuing the work we had started. As the days passed, I found myself settling into a new rhythm. I no longer felt the weight of Clara's manipulations hanging over me. The house, which had once felt suffocating and full of her influence, now felt like mine again. I spent time in the garden, a place Richard had loved where we had planted trees and flowers together. I worked on the charity projects Richard had been passionate about, pouring my energy into them as a way to honor him and continue our shared mission. I spent quiet evenings reading, remembering the books Richard had loved, and enjoying the peacefulness that had once been so elusive. I reflected often on my journey, the pain, the fear, the heartbreak, and how it had all brought me here. I realized that I was no longer the same woman who had stood in the courtroom trembling with uncertainty. I was stronger now, more confident in who I was and what I stood for. I had fought for the truth, and I had won. Not just a battle, but a war for my own identity, for my place in Richard's story, and for the future we had dreamed of together. The truth had been reclaimed, Clara's lies had been exposed, and for the first time I felt truly free. Free from the shadow of manipulation, free from the fear of losing everything. I was no longer a silent bystander in my own story. I was the one telling it, the one shaping the future. As I sat in the quiet of our home one evening, I realized that peace wasn't something I had to fight for anymore. It had always been within reach. I just had to claim it. I had done that now, and I was finally able to live the life Richard and I had always dreamed of without fear or interference. In the end, it wasn't the money or the property that mattered. It was the love we had shared, the life we had built, and the legacy we had left behind. I had honored that legacy, and in doing so, I had found my own. Now I could breathe easy. I could live in the truth, knowing that Clara's hold over my life had ended. It was my time now, to move forward, to build on the foundation we had started, and to live with the peace that only comes from knowing you've done the right thing. I had fought for Richard's memory, and I had won. And with that victory, I could finally rest. As the months passed, I found myself in a place I never imagined I would be, a place of quiet peace. The legal battles had ended. Clara had been forced to step aside, and with that, the weight that had been crushing me for so long was finally lifted. But the real victory wasn't just the court decision or the legal triumph. It was the peace I had found within myself, the peace that came from standing firm in my truth, despite all the manipulation, all the deceit that had tried to rewrite my story. I had fought for Richard's legacy, for our shared life, and for the place I had always held in it. And in doing so, I had reclaimed my own voice. I had found the strength to rise above the betrayal and stand on my own. It wasn't the kind of victory that screamed for attention, but it was powerful nonetheless. The quiet power of truth had been my weapon, my shield, and my guide throughout this entire journey. Looking back, I realized that this journey was never about revenge. It was never about getting back at Clara or proving anyone wrong. It was about standing firm for what was right, for what Richard would have wanted, and for what I knew in my heart was mine. I had fought not just for the estate or the property, but for the truth that Clara had tried to erase, the truth that no one could take away from me. And now, as I walked through the house Richard and I had built together, I no longer felt like a shadow of the past. I felt like I was finally home. I had reclaimed my place in the story, not as a victim of betrayal, but as a woman who had fought with strength and integrity, who had stood up for her truth no matter the cost. In the end, I realized that the quiet power of truth had been the most profound weapon all along. It was simple, but it was enough. And now, with the clarity and peace I had fought for, I could finally move forward living my life, honoring Richard's memory, and carrying the legacy we had built with love and truth at its core. The story of Emily's journey is a profound reminder of the quiet yet powerful strength that comes from standing firm in your truth. In a world where manipulation and deceit often try to erase the very essence of who we are, it takes incredible courage to reclaim our identity, especially when it feels like everything we've worked for is slipping away. Emily didn't just fight for the estate, she fought for her voice, for the integrity of her love with Richard, and for the life they built together. In our own lives, we often face situations where we feel silenced, overlooked, or even betrayed. It's easy to let the weight of these challenges define us, to let the actions of others control our narrative. But Emily's story shows us that true strength isn't about seeking revenge or retaliation. It's about standing tall in the face of adversity, protecting what's rightfully ours, and never letting anyone rewrite our story. This is not just about property or money. It's about the truth of who we are, what we've contributed, and how we deserve to be seen. The quiet power of truth has a way of shining through no matter how dark the situation may seem. So I encourage you to ask yourself, what truths have you been hiding from or letting others take away from you? Are you ready to stand up for what is right, even when it feels like the world is against you? Like Emily, your truth can become your greatest strength, so never let anyone take that from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to reclaim your truth in a similar way? Let me know in the comments. Let's continue this conversation and support each other in our journeys.